building bridges in biotech and medtech, successful collaborations between research teams and innovation actors. Jenny. Then we have Ivano Ciceri, Head of Tech Transfer Office, Politecnico di Milano. Yes, here you are. Mariana Boseson, expert on investing in deep tech and medtech. And then Milos Jamrosi, CEO of EFM. And then Pierre, is Pierre here as well? Pierre made it? Okay, fantastic. We weren't sure. Okay. Pierre Cherel, Excels Bionics.
Okay, well, thanks for that kind introduction. A really great pleasure to be here this afternoon, and thank you for those really valuable opening remarks and setting the scene about the value of the EIC and our work as business angels. I have the great pleasure in doing the introductory session today, and I've got a fantastic panel, as you've already gathered. But this really reinforces our work as business angels and our work under ESIL, which is really about building bridges between fantastic research and those who are innovation actors, innovators action. And this is really our role as a whole range of players in the ecosystem, but especially wanting to draw the attention of investors. So fantastic to have Dr. Mariana Bosesan with us today, who actually is a fantastic background in computer science and AI pioneer. She's educated at Stanford and MIT and operating in Germany, Romania, but many parts of Europe. She has a PhD in cognitive science, psychology, and philosophy, and a serial tech entrepreneur and an incredibly prolific investor as well in deep tech and other tech. So great to have you here, Mariana. I'm also very delighted to have Pierre Chanel joining us, and thank you so much for your work, because we need more people like you, Pierre, who are actually spinning out great companies out of universities and actually bringing some amazing new innovations to the table. Oh, thank you. Yes, I need to do this, apparently. I need to grow a few inches. Lovely to have you here, Milos, as well, because, you know, in your work in, Engineers for Medicine, which is quite a pioneering organization, really co-creating entrepreneurs and helping them to kind of find that commercialization opportunity. And really delighted to have you here, Ivano, because, you know, the role that, universities play and your role at the Politecnico in Milano will be very important in providing that great interface. So, as I said, we know how important it is to have both strong innovation actors as well as innovators here in Europe. And I really looking at, it's those connections that can be made that become so important. We cannot have people working in silos. We need to create better connections. We need a connected and vibrant ecosystem to really build and grow angel investors. But most importantly, we need to build a connected ecosystem between ourselves as investors and amazing research and entrepreneur innovators here in Europe. And the role that the EIC is obviously playing in creating those hubs where we can find each other is absolutely valuable. I'm going to start with you, Pierre, because from my perspective, you have really epitomizing what we're really talking about here. You began as a researcher, you spun out of university, and now you've made the trail to Series A, which is fantastic. But we'd love to hear from you about what's been that journey. How have you built those bridges? What bridges have been good? What bridges have been not so good? And really any of the barriers that you have faced along the way, because really making that all work for you, avoiding that valley of death that we all hope you don't fall down, is really important to us to know. So tell us about your journey.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been tough, very tough. And it's been tough since the beginning. So indeed, starting from research, research has started about 20 years ago at the Vrije Universiteit Brussels. Research in robotic prosthetics and exoskeletons, which eventually, out of luck, I might say, spun out of university because it seemed that we could bring some value to patients. So that's great. People have great dreams. The fund can start, but then a lot of things come along the way. You first have to negotiate IP with the university. That's okay. I mean, that's a difficult place to be, but negotiations are always difficult, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be called negotiations. I think what's been most difficult for me at that stage is the fact that a lot of universities have VC funds attached. And if you look at Europe in general, it's definitely not like the US. I mean, we have plenty different countries, and every different country wants to invest in its own country. And every university or every country's universities have a bunch of VCs attached, which only invest in that country, or mostly. So what it ends up with quite a monopoly. And when there's a monopoly, that's never good. There's always a party which is going to lose in the bargain, and typically it's the entrepreneur, which is a big pain because at the end of the day, we will have to do the execution, and that's the really difficult work, right? You want to have the energy for the next 5, 10, sometimes maybe even more years. And maybe that's the first element. I think I'm very grateful already for actually BE Angels for that, because if they wouldn't have been there, if I wouldn't have met a few very motivated business angels to jump in the story, probably I wouldn't be sitting here very clearly. So that's the first thing. It's been actually even so bad that those VCs kind of even burned us in the Belgian market for almost 2 years. For almost 2 years, everybody was looking around. Why are they not investing? Oh, no, then we don't invest. Until a few business angels, which managed to have their own critical minds, started noticing that it wasn't grounded or making their own choices. And luckily, that's how we raised our first funding round, 3 million euros. That was in 2019, which then was further reinforced over the coming 5 years by Innoviris, for those that knows Innoviris in Brussels, as well as EIC, because we managed to get the EIC accelerator program. Both actually together, I can say that there was about 5 million grants on top of the initial investment we managed to get, which was absolutely necessary. If we wouldn't have had these mechanisms, again, I wouldn't be sitting here for a long time ago. We managed to build first product. I didn't say what we've been doing. Maybe it's less important here, but we're actually we're doing our best to improve prosthetic devices, knowing that today's prosthetic devices are more than 55 years old technology, and we believe that robotics and AI, together with the knowledge we have in human biomechanics, can really improve quality of life for patients. A tremendous amount of work. It's Medtech. We are speaking about a medical device, but on top of that, it's deep tech because although it doesn't look like, but building a prosthesis is extremely complex, extremely difficult. The requirements are extremely high. We're actually making parts of a human. So we managed to build first products, but it's been tough along the way, and that's normal. And recently we got a Series A investment from a VC called PE Group, Belgian VC, together with a bunch of more deep pocket business angels, as well as the EIC fund. We raised 7.4 million. Closed here in September, so very glad about that. So we got the fuel to work for the next 3 years. That's fantastic. Yeah, so quite a journey.
Yes.
A lot of difficulties, but with perseverance, I think we can keep on going.
It's a great example, isn't it, of an amazing entrepreneur who's actually had to tackle a lot of obstacles on the way, but found your bridges, and, well done, Claire, for BE Angels and mobilizing some great angels. And great to hear you have still deep-pocketed angels and VCs in that journey, but there are tough milestones along the way when you're building an innovation, an innovation like that. And great to hear about the role that EIC has played. So we've already got a sense, of bridges, but also barriers along that way. Milos, you are in an interesting area too, because you're building businesses from quite the get-go, really getting involved in businesses at a really early stage to help bring their medtech, innovations to market. So can you tell us a little bit about your the journey you're taking with those entrepreneurs, but especially, what have been the useful bridges to you so far, and some of your challenges in helping those commercializations really come to light?
I'm honored to be here. Thank you. So EFM is for my startup. So 3 before was also telemedical devices with algorithms, but 3 before was in the MDD chain. So it was certified in a different regulation. And nevertheless, I am from Poland, so all startups are in Poland. And in Poland, without European fundings, nothing would happen at all. But we have European fundings, so those startup has a chance, but still, we don't have VCs dedicated to medtech. So the first step, pre-seed, is easy. There is a lot of programs that you can get first money and check your idea, but then is the seed round. And the seed round always was extremely difficult. And all 3 startups before EFM is one that cannot go this path, use IPO to jump to Series E. Why? Because MDD took 3 months to get CE mark on the device and start to sell. So IPO took like 6 months, so it's somewhere, yes. But right now it's impossible because certification takes for hardware from 8 months to 1.5 years. So it makes investors allergic. Also, the notified body are very busy because all industry needs to recertify everything till 28. Yeah, 28. So another part, we have AI, who is taking all the money from the market. And what's happened? Actually, if you have medical device in the seed round, you're not selling, there is no traction because you're not allowed to selling. It's almost impossible to raise seed round. So I was traveling with EFM from France to Hong Kong, also through Arabic countries, trying to see where I can get financing, and it is disaster, actually. So right now we are in the reverse innovation. So we start to sell on the markets where there is no regulation. And my idea is what's happened next. Okay, so in 2028, half of the products will disappear from the market because they will not be red certified. And then what? Then we don't have Series A companies to invest because there is no seed round financing. The startups in Germany is dying in medtech. In Poland, this is absolutely disaster. So what would change? Because I was asked also to show some solutions. It would be great if, for example, angels, who is making a huge difference when you're trying to attract VC, because if you have 2 or 3 angels on the board, you're a different startup. Yeah, it would change if it doesn't matter where you are with your startup, the investors will get tax release. Because right now, if you're raising Series A, it doesn't matter where the startup is. With the seed round, it's very important because VCs want to spend, me as a founder, to spend their money on their market. So please relocate. But first relocate, hire people in here, then we invest. So it's a trap.
Yeah, no, thanks, Milos. I mean, there are, serious challenges there you've mentioned, also regulation being one of those that you've obviously especially raised. And then obviously the appetite. And, you're talking about hardware too, which has always been a challenging area in many ways. But also the fact you're being driven to, not driven, but, one of our biggest challenges, as you know, is the loss of so much of our innovation IP to other parts of the world. And so if you're starting that journey so early to really, we're losing that IP at a really early stage to other markets. And this is a serious challenge that we do need to address. And we definitely will want to explore that during our conversation this afternoon. Thanks, Milos, I mean, for laying out those challenges. I'm going to turn to you now, Ivano, because you are one of our innovation actors, at the Politecnico in Milano. Therefore, as you know, technology transfer, that is such a big area that we all know is really the great interface and connector between research and those opportunities with both investment and markets and corporates. Can you say a little bit more about your role as a connector, as a bridge builder, in terms of both looking the internal ways you work, but also your role with building those connections with wider ecosystem partners? Thank you, Ivano.
Thank you, Penny. To explain our approach, I wanted to take two photographs of the same scene, because when you listen to startuppers, Milos and Pierre, they are very nice, but I know what they meant. Okay, you frequently hear statement like, when the university takes equity, it becomes a burden. University want to be overpaid for their IP. The university, they say, still believe the idea is everything, but we know that execution is everything. And they are right. They are exactly right. At the conclusion, they always say the university should step back, and quickly. Second picture, we shift the camera to the academic world. The picture looks completely different. Universities say startuppers and investors don't recognize our role. Without us, wouldn't be no ideas, no patents. They don't want to share their success with us who enabled the innovation. We invest, the university say, we invest heavily in generating, in protecting IP. If there is no return, research funding will decline. And you see that both positions are completely right. But I don't want to find a compromise. I'm not here to negotiate a middle ground between the two positions. Instead, I want to propose to you a shift of perspective. Because in your question, Gianni, you talked about ecosystem. So let's see if we can arrange the actors in a way that makes sense for the ecosystem as a whole. First thing I say is that why discussing single cases doesn't work. Because we must talk about the system, not about cases. So this is the first thing that I would say. Because when we discuss a specific startup case, usually competition has already begun. Negotiation has already started. Everyone is protecting their own position. So I think we should talk about system. So let's try to have a systemic view. And if we shift our reasoning to scenarios, we can agree that without university, there is no deal flow. We can agree that TRL does not rise by itself. But we agree that without entrepreneurs, there is no impact. So I think that, of course, university and startuppers and the founders are necessary. So let's try to see the goals of these two parts. Goals of startups are speed, first, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? And the second is that they want to use VC money or investor money to build, not to pay for IP, correct? Let's see the goals of the university. I would say that the first goal is demonstrating impact. Consider that first goal for university usually is not money. University typically are institutional, so it's got institutional goals. University have to demonstrate that their research activity has got an impact. If you as the university, you're not able to show that you are able to reach impact, research funding will decline. So the first goal is demonstrating that you are able to have impact. The second one is you as university, you want to be recognized, according to my experience, as a cradle for startups. That is very important. Universities nowadays want to tell to future students something like, if you study here, you won't only find a job. You will able also to create your own job. And this is a storytelling that is very, very important for university nowadays. And it's something that when I was a student, it wasn't like that. When I was a student, studying at Politecnico meant to work after the degree for a big corporate. Now studying in our university means also starting to create your own startup. Of course, money is important and is important for us as well. So we need to generate revenues. But why? We need to generate revenues to sustain research. Universities are not companies, but we need money to maintain labs, to protect IP, and to raise TRL. So what I'm saying is that I think there is no contradiction. I think we have the opportunity to build a new scene, to build a new ecosystem. But to do that, we need that each of the two actors declare their objective ex ante. Each actor, I think, can help the other to achieve its goals, because each actor's success reinforces the whole system. Is a vision that is a bit naive, I will say. I don't think so. I think that is something that we can do, and later on I can explain to you what are we doing in our university to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I mean, it's really important for us all to really situate universities in their right context. And I totally agree. You sit in a very, very important point there between the role of the university and the success of entrepreneurs. And it is important to be very conscious of this, because it's very easy, as you say, to see the university as a barrier rather than an amazing facilitator to success as entrepreneurs. And although we do know there are a few things to fix along the way, don't we, Ivano? But now I'm going to turn to Dr. Mariana Bozasan, who, as I said, is really able to look at this from both ends, having been both an academic, also an entrepreneur and an investor, and a very deep sense of the opportunities for deep tech. So as an investor, as an innovation actor, such an important role that you can play really in supporting, both that emerging research, but also its scale up and success. So really, how do you see your role as an investor, both from that very early stage of that spinning out right through to being able to build and grow successful businesses? I mean, you are the bridge builder, and you have a huge opportunity to do that as an investor. So do you want to give us a little bit of a sense of your approach to this, Mariana?
Yes, and thank you. And I'm actually, we heard about problems here, right? And I'm supposed to bring it all together. Interestingly enough, I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated.
Go for it.
And I'm deeply grateful to your presentation and your strategy going into next year, because you put something really, really important onto the landscape that is crucial for us from the perspective that we're taking. What hasn't, except for you, what hasn't been talked about here is what does the planet do? I'm a member of the Club of Rome, and together with the Club of Rome, we invoked the investment turnaround that has as a moonshot aggregating the necessary capital using technology, in my case, to really address the grand global challenges and implement the UN SDGs within planetary boundaries by 2050. So if you thought that we were talking about problems, this is a mouthful. And I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful to you, Mrs. Perrin, for putting that into your strategy, because this is exactly why I'm here today. Why? Because science tells us that if we don't manage to really get the CO2, stop the CO2 emission from going into the atmosphere and get the one that is already there, in another 10 to 15 years, we won't have a planet where we are going to be successful and make a ton of money with our ideas. And so this is the top priority that I think we should be really focusing on, without calling ourselves impact investors or climate investors or something, because, and I completely agree with you, because we have to have a systemic approach to the solutions, to everything that we're talking. So from my perspective, this is exactly what I'm focusing on. So, and if I'm a computer scientist, studied artificial intelligence, applied it in chip design 40 years ago. So yeah, I am old. So all I can contribute to this entire conversation is, how can technology help us, together with capital and with a good strategy? And so if you look at what can be done today with existing technology today in deep tech, we can really withdraw 90% of the CO2 that is currently being put into the atmosphere through existing technology today in 3 sectors, namely energy. And I'm so happy that I saw energy and fusion reactors, because I'm investing in fusion reacting. I'm invested in Proxima Fusion. Exactly. That's why I'm so deeply grateful. I'm so grateful for you for putting this all together, for all of you who are here. And it's a small group, given the challenges that we have. But if you look at the success that China, and we don't want to get squeezed between the Chinese and the Americans in this, because we have all these amazing smart people and universities here that we can leverage off. If you look at how the Chinese, and please stop me when I'm going too long. If you look at how the Chinese have managed to really raise the bottom of the pyramid by getting every year for the last 30 years, 25 million people out of poverty, was because of energy. They created the necessary energy which is needed to keep the levels of culture and social economic environment at the way we have. And that's why energy is important. Oh, have we succeeded in making energy in the old paradigm available to everyone? No. So thank you for realizing and helping, put the next paradigm onto the platform. So energy is extremely important. And the convergence of all the technologies that are helping, including solar and so on, and wind. So the second paradigm, and that's very, very important. We need to make sure that people have the mobility needed. So transportation is another extremely important sector where we could actually withdraw up to 14% CO2 emissions from the atmosphere. Energy is responsible for about 40 to 45, and then food. Food is the next one that is extremely important. And here comes, from my perspective, something that I'm extremely interested in is everyone talks about AI and fears AI. Now, the future is not AI, it's not LLMs. The future is quantum information sciences with artificial intelligence. So please keep that in mind, and let's work together on really bringing that onto the forefront, because that's what will help us provide the necessary food for the 10 billion people and growing on this planet through precision fermentation and cellular agriculture, which is deeply deep tech. And 2% of the energy needed to provide the fertilizers can be addressed with quantum information science by replacing the Haber-Bosch technology with quantum technology.
So Mariana, I mean, and I'm, we're all totally with you, because, we know this is a really, really important mission. But today here, as an investor, we need you to build the bridges for, these sciences, and particularly the areas we're talking about, deep tech, which is such a big area for you. I mean, you are there, your biggest role that you're playing in all of that you're speaking about is actually building those bridges and building that pool of investment, which is going to take that technology through to success and through to commercial success. So what do you feel as an investor and the broader investment community here can be doing, therefore, to ensure that those technologies do actually achieve, and build the kind of impact that you are actually talking about? Because we have to address that journey. That's what we're there for as investors.
Well, one good news that I could provide here, I've been doing this for the last 30 years. So I've lived in Silicon Valley for 35 years, and I did technology transfer from there to here. So there's a lot of interaction there, and we can piggyback on each other, and we should. And there's one thing, I've developed an investment model as a business angel that helps you bring in talking about finances, because at the end of the day, we all need, it's all about money, and money needs to be paid back. So in my case, with the integral model, and I've written extensively, so those of you who are interested, I didn't bring the book, it's Integral Investing, it's a report to the Club of Rome. I multiplied my investment 7 times across the board constantly for 30 years. So there are means, to find out who is a good entrepreneur, what are the good technologies, in whom to invest, and how to invest it smartly to really make sure that you actually create the abundance needed to lift people out of poverty, that we keep the European region successful. So I think, I could go into details on this, but there are means to really know what we're doing, to find out what are the technologies in which we should invest in, driven by the moonshot that is so important for the next 15 years. And how can you do the necessary de-risking, which you're talking about, the due diligence, in order to make sure that the limited amount of capital. You always have limited amount of money, limited amount of time, limited technology, limited of everything. But if you're doing it in a smart way, you could really implement it. And so this is what I'm here. And please call on me. I'm here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. So I think you've raised a really important point, which is that really one of the biggest challenges for angels is actually to, we see between us thousands of deals every day, and we have to find the right ones to back. And so I think one of our biggest challenges that we've really been helping to address in ESIL really is how you do actually, really identify the right deals, and from countries that we would not normally be looking at, which is what has really been the enabler for us with ESIL. And that we can do, we can, by the use of good due diligence, and both actually then sharing deals. So our biggest chance that we've been doing at ESIL has actually been building syndicates and co-investment, so that we can actually not only create the firepower by pooling our investment, but then invest alongside others by building that pool of investment, both from angels through VCs through to success. Because I can certainly tell you, as someone who's been angel investing for more than 20 years, angel investing does not work on its own. It only works alongside others. I think that's something that's been a mantra for ESIL all this time. So Pierre, I'm going to ask you now to both give your opinion on that point, but also, as you know, I'm really keen for you to give us some of the solutions that you would like to bring to really address these gaps. Because as you can see, we have amazing entrepreneurs seeking investment. We have angels with the willingness to invest, but these two things don't always come together at the right time in the right place.
Yeah, that's correct. We're speaking a lot about finding seed funding, getting governments to co-finance. Lately, I was at the NATO, invited for a panel as well at the NATO conference. And there again, I could hear a lot of concerns about what happened with China, the US, all these things we know a lot about, and trying to get a lot of people invested, not just about money, but also researchers motivated to build technologies, dual use technologies, which we are, for example, part of. So hence the reason I was present. And we're always talking about this. We have to motivate the investments, get the money, get the this, get the that. That's very good. But actually, I took the mic at some point and I asked a question, which I would like to ask here as well, because I think one of the most important things at the end of the day is networking of people. And this is where business angels are, in my opinion, extremely strong, because the network can really go really vast. And one of the things I wanted to say, and of course, you need a systemic approach. That's always better. But I can only speak about my own case, obviously. So, and I'm mostly focused on my own case, as that's what's required from my job. But if I look at my case, as I said, things have been tough, like for every entrepreneur. I don't believe any entrepreneur has an easy time. So it's normal. But you see, one of the reasons we needed today to raise almost 8 million euros is actually mostly because in Belgium specifically, there's seems to be quite a difficulty into communication between different ministries. But you see, there I could suggest a significant systemic improvement in things. So again, if I talk about my personal situation, we're a Medtech company. We built a medical device which is reimbursed in Belgium, but also in many other countries. Every country has a very different system. The system in Belgium typically is based on a catalog, which is called from the RISIF INAMI, for those that knows it. I don't know if there's a lot of Belgians in the room, but you have the catalog of RISIF INAMI, which is about 50, 60 years old, very old school. So you bring new innovations by default, it doesn't fit into that. So as a young entrepreneur, you bring a new product, you create a file, you send the file, and then 3 weeks later, you hear the file was, the first check is, does it fit into a box, right? Is the file complete? So the first, no, the language is okay. Luckily, I speak fluently Dutch and French, so that's not a problem. But the thing is, oh no, it doesn't fit into the existing catalog. It goes in the trash. That's just crazy. Doesn't make sense. So my point is, we've started this research 20 years ago in university, which I'm extremely grateful of. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I've been a professor also for some time. So, I mean, I'm really into academics. We've built technology with the help of Innoviris, which is also, which comes from Ministry of Innovation. Previously, academics is more Ministry of Education, a lot of investments, Ministry of Innovation, a lot of investments. EIC comes part of it, but okay. And then there is this gap with Ministry of Health, which just doesn't seem to be bridgeable. And I will tell you, if that gap was bridged, actually, we wouldn't have even needed any funding. And the crazy part is we go in France, where the system for reimbursement might be much more scientifically based, not just do you fit into the box, no, trash. And there we get the reimbursement. Or you go to Germany, there you do get it. And, however, we're Belgian based. Building a sales network in Germany, in France, in Norway, in Spain, it's again very tough. And to do that, I need a lot of money, so I raise an extra 7 million euros. But the thing is, someday the government will notice, oh, this product is actually not that bad. It should be reimbursed in Belgium. And then we will have to start negotiating about a price. But my investors will be behind me telling me like, no, but now we made it in other countries. It's been very tough, so we can't negotiate anymore. So you see, like, money doesn't solve everything. Sometimes just having the right network of people that get you to the right person, then gets you to the right office, gets you to the right minister, gets you to the right discussion point, can change minds and change a system. So if anybody happens to know people into the Ministry of Health, please let me know. No, I'm joking apart, but I believe that there are sometimes things like that that can be done, which would require much less money, because every funding that is unlocked by Europe, every funding that is unlocked by defense today, these are crazy amounts. It requires a lot of efforts, a lot of organization, and sometimes also a lot of inefficiencies as well, you know. So, but it will not solve it will not solve the real
Yes, I mean,
underlying issues.
These are very practical issues, and areas like standards and regulations are one of the biggest issues we know for many entrepreneurs bring innovations to light, especially when you come to medical devices and areas like that. And so it's I think this is a universal issue, and of course across Europe, as you say, every country will have its own different parameters for this. So this is a massive issue, because we're talking about, what are the big issues, and actually getting to market, getting to commercial success. Those are some of the hoops and milestones you actually have to go to beyond many of the other practical areas. So coming to you, Miloš, I mean, obviously there's some practical issues I know that you've been looking at as well. But whether it's a strategy or practical, can you give us some thoughts on what solutions you would like to see happening here?
Okay.
And we're talking about what builds bridges for you.
Yes. Actually, I will tell more about the risk. I was discussing with a CEO of Robinhood Angels in Philadelphia, United States. Investment, and he told me one thing. The one thing is, if there is university licensing IP, he will not invest. So there are some issues that universities comes from angels, from VCs who don't want to share or discuss the strategy, because startup is on building a value, not necessarily making a profit to share. So this is one thing, but he told very important part, the risk my investment. So there is a very important part where someone wants to invest and risk his money, and he knows that there will require more capital, so the further investment is required. He's asking who will invest next. So this is on every single stages. So if, for example, this angels organizations communicate with VCs and create the strategy for each products group or industry, then I could focus on execution, not hitting. It's like, very frustrating when you're going to another event and you're pitching for the group, and there is silence, there is nothing, because this is not the right group. You are in the wrong place, but you need to check to see. Yeah, so it's taking a lot of time, and this is affecting the invention, because we have 10 to 20 years to be first to it, very fast. So our focus is very fast execution, discovering the right markets, making first sales, building values through IP. So this multidisciplinary in Medtech is 12 lanes, as they say, regulations, IP, and so on. So this is the main focus. But providing the financing right now is like 80% of the time from CEO to manage that. And why? Because every single round required to do a lot of work, is full-time job, raising money for startup. So right now in United States, I heard from the guy who's working there, I can take 1 month off, travel to Silicon Valley, make 300 meetings, and get back with $6 million to relocate my
road.
Yes, and it will work. He told me it will work. Don't build anything in Europe. Just go there, relocate, and you will work there. I don't want to do that.
So Miloš, what's your solution? Because we don't want to lose your IP.
Yes, this solution is to check each step that startups are doing. This is perfect what the European Commission is doing with this step final, where people will invest in Series A and B because there is the step they can get money. They will invest in early stage because there is a pathfinder, because the pre-accelerator, accelerator, but this is not enough. We need the VCs, we need the angels, we need to cooperate, we need to communicate. Network is crucial because this is the risking investment and this is the risking the operations. So this is the crucial part.
No, thank you very much. And also you made a very important point, because one of the challenges we have also in the angel market and indeed in the VC market is we don't actually build very successful verticals in this market. So for many of you, as you know, we only have, and I can see a few in the room, who are specialist investors, say in biotech or medtech or certain areas. So much of the investing is pretty broad based. And so for you as an entrepreneur, you have to kind of, you have to work with a very wide range of investors. So one of our big opportunities is actually to build more verticals in the market so that angels, VCs, and other players, both corporates and wider players, can work together through their own specialist knowledge and take businesses more successfully through the scaling steps. So you have touched a very important issue, because it's very exhausting as an entrepreneur to pitch multiple times and realize there are no one in the room who actually understands your business. So I think it is something that we feel we can do. We can definitely build better pathways for companies like this if we can build better verticals. So message taken, one we really are working on. Thank you. And so Ivano, just from your perspective and in the kind of time we have available, just could you give us just, some brief perspective on really what you feel the universities can do now to really address the issues that, you have? Because for me, you have a huge role in making the outside world work alongside all that you do as universities, how you really create those successful ecosystems.
Yeah, talking about solution and practical issues, I can share with you what we are doing and what are in our university. For example, no equity participation. Politecnico does not take equity in spin-off. So we want to remove all barriers for entrepreneurs. And the university remains connected through intellectual property agreements. So this is one thing that we do. The second one is clear and transparent IP rules. So we apply transparent intellectual properties transfer rules that just to be very, very practical, license with no upfront payment and low royalties. The startup may exercise the option to purchase the IP at any time, and is subject only to the reimbursement of patent-related expenses and future payments that are linked to upcoming investment. So this is very, very practical. Third thing, constant generation of new ideas. We generate about 100 patents per year. 4, strong investment in IP protection. We do invest 1 million per year to protect IP. So this is what we do to try to build the ecosystem on our side.
Thank you. I mean, and those are very important issues for entrepreneurs, and your role at that point of spinning out and the role of equity stakes has been a very big issue, we know, for so many businesses. So it's great to hear the steps you're taking. And now I'm going to turn to you, Mariana, because, as an investor, we're there both not only to be successful ourselves at investing, but also to make the ecosystem work for the entrepreneurs we back. So, and what thoughts do you have as to more that we could do both as a community, but also what can be done by European Commission or the EIC to make this experience so much more connected and their path so much easier?
Well, everything has been said, but not by me. So should I repeat that? I think the most important thing which has been said, is get rid of the fragmentation. It's just, and I'm not telling you anything new. And yet still we need to work on it. One important thing that I've been working on and involved in, and you too, is the EU Inc. Like why don't we have a Delaware company? Why don't we have a unified market? It could actually, in theory, be so easy, but it's not. So we need to, you still need to have to do the Sisyphus work going up and down. So this is extremely important. And one fear that many of my peers are saying, like, yeah, we might come up with EU Inc., like a Delaware European type of company, but then you have a Delaware company in each country. So we need to make sure that doesn't end up like that. So, and I would not be an AI major if I didn't criticize the EU AI Act. Times have changed. Times have changed significantly. We need to be responding quickly to dual use. We need to be able to invest in healthcare companies, but I currently don't anymore. Why? Because, the EU AI Act has been postponed by a year. What does that mean? Let's say I would invest in you. What does it mean? I'm going to wait for another year to end up where we are today. Exactly. What is...
And yeah, the same stuff, 1 year waiting.
Exactly. So we need to get out of this deadlock. We are smart people. It shouldn't be too difficult for us to put our heads together and come up with better solutions. And on one hand, I am very sad, of course, that we have what we have right now, and in terms of Europe. But the good side is we, need to defend ourselves, which means let's defend ourselves. So let's use our minds and technology and everything and money and everything we have to really come up with the proper solutions, for the problems that we have. And why not use existing technology, including artificial intelligence, or better, not just LLMs, blah, 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 but quantum information science that is applied using equations, mathematical equations, to solve the problem. So we can be smart about this. And I understand that it is extremely complicated, but we have brilliant people in this room. Everyone in this room is brilliant, and they can help us translate it, make it simple. So I think this is what I would suggest, we do, just put our heads together again.
So as you can see, this panel is really throwing down the gauntlet for the rest of the day. We've started from the top. And I think this has been a very important discussion for us all. Has anyone, we've got just a few minutes left, has anyone got any comments or questions they want to raise? Sir?
In China, they have something that they call Great Bay Area. So this is Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Macau. They already have #1 in WIPO as so many patents in this region. And they want to put so much money to be on the top, Silicon Valley, New York, Tokyo. At the same time, Saudi Arabia have this plan 2913 to also be the leader of, invention-driven enterprise industry. So if we will be fractured in countries, in financing. I heard from investor in France that I should look for money from Germany because it's closer to Poland. This is true.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
yes,
we will be at the end. We don't count because those big countries, United States, China, Arabic countries, are doing their best to be in this race on the first stage. So we need to unite.
Yeah.
So yes, no, that's a fantastic point. I mean, the opportunity to aggregate our firepower, across Europe is obviously huge, and we certainly don't want to be overtaken. I think our biggest issue is the loss of our amazing IP to other parts of the world that we need to avoid at all cost. And Luigi has a question.
Thank you, everyone, for such an interesting panel. I had a question for Pierre because I could not help myself about the story you told of this Medtech equipment having to travel the whole of Europe and to start again and again to sell basically the same product. You've been helped by angels, as I understand, to start your company. Have you thought of using also angels in other countries to help you enter the market of the different hospitals and everything else. And if because I think you said you raised a lot of money to do that, but have you thought about helping, having angels, experts in medtech helping you do that? And if not, why?
The answer is no. Actually, quite simply because I operate in a sector which is definitely not VC minded. There is very low investments actually in our sector. Our sector is the orthopedics sector. It's about wheelchairs, prosthetics, obviously, corsets, or helms for people that need it. There is almost no investments in those fields. The reason is because it's a very historic field. The companies are competing companies. The youngest, there's about 5 of them in the whole world. The youngest is 50 years old, and the others are all past 100 years old. Very low tech, very low investments. Well, the reality is you're looking for business angels or VCs whenever you need funding, right? I was lucky enough to have a good funding round 6 years ago, being very money efficient, meaning that we could work for 6 years with that. And I'm hoping to do the same now, so I don't have to be constantly running behind money. But so again, the answer is no. Haven't talked to business angels in neighboring countries, because once you start entering into the market and you try to sell your device, you want to be as efficient as possible and go to your clients and to the stakeholders, the client, the patients, and there's that whole thing.
Yeah, thanks very much. But I mean, it was raising very much that point that we know that angels have the capacity to really, offer soft landings into other markets, and it can often be a great connector for you. So anyone in the room, that is certainly an important point to manage. We've come to the end of our session. It's been a great session. I hope you've enjoyed it as we've kicked off the afternoon. I'd really like to thank my fantastic panelists, Pierre, Ivano, Mariana, and sorry, I mean Miloš. I was about to say Moshe, Miloš. But I mean, just great to hear all your experiences, and I hope you've enjoyed. As an audience, we've certainly enjoyed speaking with you this afternoon. Thank you very much.